Taylor Swift just released her new album, and in one of her songs, she uses the term Jehovah's Witness almost as an insult.
You're Jehovah's Witness suit.
That's as much as I can show you without getting my channel deleted from YouTube. This is an excerpt of her song, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, which is part of her new album, The Torture Poets Department. She opens with gazing at me starry-eyed in your Jehovah's Witness suit. Now, I'm not a Swiftie, nor am I up to date on who Taylor Swift has been banging. However, to Swifties, it was obvious from the title alone that it was referring to her ex, Maddie Haley, who is quite short compared to his tall bandmates. However, it was that line, gazing at me starry-eyed in your Jehovah's Witness suit, that made it obvious that she was dissing Maddie. Maddie's signature look is a suit and tie, which puts him along the Jehovah's Witnesses in the increasingly diminishing group of suit and tie wearers who, like Jehovah's Witnesses, who think that dressing in a suit and tie is what Jehovah expects them to express respect for him. Maddie and Taylor dated briefly during the summer of 2023, and apparently he left a big impression on Taylor. In a song that Jehovah's Witnesses will definitely not be allowed to listen and to enjoy, as we'll go into later, Taylor details in her song a small and pathetic man who has a pill addiction, uses her as a prop for clout, and overall just treats her horribly. The song asks if he was sent by someone who wanted her dead and tells the story of a brief yet toxic relationship, even with one F-word, almost to make sure Jehovah's Witnesses can't like this song. After all, the song isn't about a nice and positive, upbuilding feeling. It's a song about a sad, shady, and manipulative man who is abusive, self-centered, and destructive. Which kinda perfectly describes Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, I'm not saying that Taylor meant to write this about Jehovah's Witnesses. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses around the world immediately noticed the similarities. Taylor sings about a toxic and abusive whirlpool of a relationship that's not too dissimilar as to how ex-members describe their experience in the cult. She opens by describing what he's wearing and directly making comparison to Jehovah's Witnesses, which we already talked about, who are also immediately recognizable over their unique formal attire. Then Taylor implies that he ghosted her, which is what Jehovah's Witnesses do to anyone who leaves their religion, even if they were friends or family. The chorus says how she doesn't want him back and how he only ruined her summer, which is when Taylor and Maddie dated. And yet, she reaches out with this song, asking for someone to give him a message. This feeling of not wanting to go back but still having things to say is also shared by a lot of ex-members from a cult, since they wish they could say all of the things left unsaid to the cult that ruined a period of their lives, even if they never want to go back. The second verse talks about the feeling of disposability in her relationship, where she gets seemingly treated nicely by outward viewers, but gets immediately thrown away once she can't live to his impossible standards. This is also very similar to how people get treated in pretty much any high control group. Members have to display this appearance of happy and loving people, but that is nothing but a facade for outsiders. In reality, being in a cult like the Jehovah's Witnesses brings the same sense of inferiority as in an abusive relationship, because you're expected to follow impossible standards, and any deviation will be punished with up to total shunning from everyone, friends and family included, who will drop them to sink in stoned oblivion. After repeating the chorus, the bridge spends a long time pondering why this man got involved with Taylor in a relationship so abusive. She wonders if he wanted her dead, if he was writing a book, if he was a spy, and it will all be declassified later. She even says how he deserves prison and how he made her feel unique, telling her that normal girls were boring, only to be gone after getting what he wanted. The bridge ends telling us that this was all a performance by him. If you've ever felt that, then you can sympathize with how it feels to wake up from a cult too, often leaving you wondering why the cult spends so much keeping you inside and wondering if there's something more behind it. This, like Taylor says, can even lead you to wonder if this was all part of a progressively more preposterous conspiracy, all to try and make sense of why the cult did what they did to you. You often realize actual reasons why your cult should be persecuted by the law, even if it's extremely unlikely that that will ever happen. You recognize how the cult made you feel special to attract you, only to immediately discard you once the cult got what it wanted from you. And what's more important, you recognize that everything that attracted you to the cult was nothing but a performance. Maybe not by evil cult members, but by equally indoctrinated cult members who have learned to use toxic positivity to maintain this facade that everything is always good and positive and okay, even when it's very obviously not okay. The song closes by telling us how she will never forget what he did, and finishes by telling us that he hid in plain sight, and now she can see him for who he really is, the smallest man who ever lived. And that's exactly how modern cults operate. While people think cults are like Midsummer, isolated cult living off the grid with quirky views, that's not how cults are actually like. Cults like Mormonism, Scientology, and Jehovah's Witnesses often hide in plain sight, enslaving people's minds right in front of everybody, often with little oversight from anyone ever, and often even with government support. Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, disfellowship and shun minors, which is why Norway removed their registration status and stopped giving them grants. And although this is only one of many illegal and immoral things that the Jehovah's Witnesses do, most people will always only know them as the people standing in cards while wearing goofy suits and ties. Now, obviously, I don't think Taylor Swift wrote this song thinking of Jehovah's Witnesses. If anything, I don't think she thinks of Jehovah's Witnesses as anything more than this weird sect so obviously forgotten about by fashion that she can use them as a diss on someone's style. However, this shows us how being in a cult is extremely similar to being in a toxic relationship with a narcissist. After all, not a lot of people understand why someone in an abusive relationship doesn't just leave. Jehovah's Witnesses themselves will tell you that they don't stop anyone from leaving their religion. You can leave whenever you want. But leaving the religion isn't that simple. Just like when you're in an abusive relationship, when you're in a cult, the cult hasn't trapped you there by becoming part of your identity and by undermining your own feelings of self-worth, making you feel like this abusive situation is actually better than what you really deserve. They use slum bombing to make you feel unique and special while being ready to shun or ghost you at a moment's notice. They portray themselves with a unique, quirky, inoffensive appearance, which helps them blend in and do anything they want in plain sight. And it's only when you leave them that you realize just how bad the relationship actually was. Maybe even realizing that they actually did illegal things, or seeing them for who they really are and not for who they gaslit you into thinking they were. When you leave them, all of the emotions you've repressed will surface up. Researching more and more about them and getting more and more enraged with every new thing you find out about them, which might move you to even make a song or a YouTube channel about it. And let me tell you, Taylor Swift only writes these silly little songs because she wishes she was as good as I am on YouTube so she could make my videos instead. But unfortunately, this surprisingly insightful Taylor Swift song will likely not reach most of the Jehovah's Witnesses that need to hear it, since they will not be allowed to listen to it. Not because it might wake them up and make them leave their religion, that would be too smart, but because the song references drugs, implies extramarital sex, and even says fuck once. Jehovah's Witnesses are warned not only against songs with these mentions, but any song written by someone living a worldly lifestyle. And Taylor Swift having all of this extramarital sex definitely makes her worthy of destruction in Armageddon, where faithful Jehovah's Witnesses will survive, but Taylor Swift won't unless she converts to the religion soon. But that's all for now. Don't forget to subscribe and maybe support me with a donation to keep making videos like these. I promise I will do another one of these videos as soon as Eminem raps about someone being as useless as standing next to a Jehovah's Witness card.